Not just the coolest, not just the best, not just the hardcore icon. It's just incredible. Daddy, are you with us?
I'm here. What's going on, fellas?
Oh, there he is. Hey, someone's drunk and it's not you. That's all I got to say about that. And later on tonight, we're going to have people that are smoking bongs and way drunker than me even. And I think that is what made ECW the greatest thing of all times. But maybe that's your opinion. That's your opinion, just incredible. And that's not, that's me saying it.
Yeah, ECW was something special, that's for sure.
Was it true? Was it true how, you hear the stories. Was it true that, there was just a lot of rocking and partying in the backstage before and after, during the shows?
Yeah, it was a pretty laid-back environment. a lot more legend, a lot crazier in story than what really happened, but Paul Heyman kept a pretty loose locker room, and everybody did their own thing, and, during that era, man, we revolutionized the business, that's for sure. It'll never be the same.
No, you're right about that. That was the greatest time of all times in wrestling. This is the one time in wrestling history they have people like me with guys bringing everybody over once every 2 months, and then eventually I think it eventually became once a month or something like that. I don't even fucking remember at this point, but we would have everybody over. Everybody came out to watch the pay-per-views. My house was every couple of months. It was every punk rock motherfucker in town came over with shit tons of beer to watch ECW every time.
It was, ECW came along at a time where wrestling was so stale and stagnant, and it just really, wrestling, it was wrestling the way it used to be, and wrestling the way it was never seen before. We gave Vince McMahon some of the ideas and a launching pad for the Attitude Era, and it was really special, and it was the best 3.5 years of my career. It defined all of us: me, Sabu, Dreamer, Van Dam, the Dudleys, all of my friends. We helped change the business forever. So it was a great thing, man. And sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to say, what is it now? You were just back at the TNA. They did a TNA ECW show. You were at that, and you fought Stevie Richards, and that was cool. The crowd. Because if you watch, I don't know how much wrestling you watch. I watch TNA every week because I don't watch WWE anymore because it's kind of like half dick now. It's I prefer it either to be completely soft or completely hard. I don't like it in the middle. You know what I mean? But it's fucking. You did this TNA show. You did the ECW show from the Impact Zone, and I don't know if you watch TNA generally, but the Impact Zone is the lamest venue in all of wrestling history, probably. Even WCW and USWA, when they're in front of 100 people, is cooler. But the crowd at that show was awesome.
Yeah, it was, they tried to bring the ECW vibe back. I give them credit. A lot of people were down on them trying to do it. But unfortunately, the crowd was there. They had the ECW vibe. Kids, the people that were there, a lot of them were, old ECW fans. A lot of them had just watched the tapes. And, they kind of brought that vibe. But unfortunately, that's what's missing today in wrestling. ECW was about hardcore and blood and violence and good wrestling. But it was also just about having fun. We did some silly shit out there. We just had fun, and unfortunately now, wrestling is, they're so worried about it being a shoot, brother, and this and that. It's not the vibe it should be. Wrestling's supposed to be fun, and there's no fun in wrestling anymore in any promotion. And the reason I got into the business is because I'm a wrestling fan, and I'm not one of those guys that say, I don't watch it because I'm too cool to watch wrestling. I'd love to watch wrestling if there's something out there to watch. Unfortunately, the business just is in shambles right now, and it's sad,
Right.
With the vibe of that show, getting back to your original question about the fans not being lame, is because we gave them a fun, it was fun. We made it fun for them, and that's what's missing in the business is it's not fun anymore.
Let me ask you this, because ECW came around, started getting really popular in the mid-'90s, and the one thing I always notice, or the one thing not I always notice, but I seem to notice now, is that, of course, you have to be this super bodybuilder, shredded up dude to be a wrestler now. And a lot of the people that are shredded up bodybuilder types don't have any personality. And that comes across when you don't have it. You have an entire roster of 0 guys with any personalities. The Southern guys, every guy has personality, but none of them are bodybuilders. But every dude's can sell a ticket. Every Southern boy can sell a fucking ticket with his mouth.
Yeah, I agree. And, it seems like now everybody comes out of a factory, like a cookie-cutter factory where they all look alike, and you can't tell who, if you watch WWE and NXT, it just looks like there's a factory that develops these guys and pumps these guys out once every 6 months. It's just, wrestling's always been, a mishmash, you have to have all types, and right now, you don't have guys anymore like Bam Bam Bigelow or, guys that are big but could go, the business has just changed, and unfortunately, it's, for me at least, it's not working. And the ratings prove it's not working.
Right. Yeah, it's not working. The pay-per-views are completely down the shitter. And that's what it gets to, is to me, is that everything everything used to be all character-driven. Like, you knew the guys back then. You knew Dusty Rhodes. You knew his shit. You knew the Four Horsemen. You knew their shit. You knew Ric Flair, Harley Race. All those guys, you knew all their shit. Even up until the Attitude Era, you knew Stone Cold shit. You knew The Rock shit. Now it's just it's like a weird storyline that you're supposed to buy into instead of the actual character. And to me, the character is what should matter, because back in the day, you could put the Blue Blazer versus Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, and that made fucking money. But nowadays, they're going to have some fucking rape angle or a fucking kidnapping angle or some weird bullshit. I just like to see the one character versus the other character. And maybe that's why they're not making money anymore. They got away from developing characters and more into developing a storyline.
Yeah, and the guys that develop the storylines aren't very good either. It's just gotten completely out of bounds, and the business, unfortunately, is going to have to tank big time before it comes back up. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I don't think it'll be, in the next 10 years. I mean, I don't think I'll be around wrestling when it happens. Because I don't see anybody like Rock or like Austin coming around anytime soon. So, it's a shame.
It's hard. It's hard when you were in the WWE the last time. Was everything you said kind of scripted out? I mean, for you, you didn't really have a lot of ad lib room or anything like that. Was everything kind of here's what you have to do, and this is it?
For both I could say for TNA and for WWE, you get handed a script. You get handed a piece of paper with your lines and their lines, and that's what it is. And to me, that's a terrible way to do any kind of interview or talking or anything, because it's so unnatural. You're not. This isn't acting. You're not in a situation. This is a lot of it. You're dealing with an audience. A lot of it you're dealing with emotion, and you're looking right into this guy's eyes. And even some of the best actors in Hollywood will tell you feel it. You have to improv, and they don't allow you enough space to do it. And it's a real shame, because you know what? I remember doing my first couple interviews with X-Pac when we did X Factor, and I love working with Pac. He's one of my best friends to this day. And you'd have to sit there. You'd be so worried about memorizing your lines that you couldn't be yourself. So it's very generic, very cut and dry sort of promo, and it's hard to get emotion behind something that you have to remember. Believe me, when Roddy Piper was out there back in the day, he didn't have no script that he was following. He just felt it. And that's how the greats were. You might have had a couple of lines, and I certainly had an idea of what I was going to say, but not, word for word. I had an idea where I wanted to go and points that I had to make, but that's what you do. And it's just for me at least, as coming up in the breaking in the early 90s, 92, it was a very different, very, very generic sort of way to work.
That generic, especially, you came up in the early 90s. the early 90s is when UFC started. UFC didn't even get hot until early 2000s-ish. Now you have to compete with that, which is giving off real emotion. The whole MMA thing is giving off real emotion. Do you think that MMA is fucking pro wrestling?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, Dana White said it, and I think Vince has acknowledged it too. I mean, they're two separate entities. People know people still want to be entertained by pro wrestling. They know what to expect from pro wrestling, and it's a whole different animal. And people know what to expect from UFC. I think they could both coexist and make money. I mean, I know Vince is still making money, but it's just it's the entertainment factor. Vince could learn some things from UFC as far as the way they promote real competition and real storyline. Because sometimes the way they contrive things and just make things so hokey, that it doesn't have to be. It's not rocket science. Pro wrestling is not rocket science. It's pretty fundamentally easy, to make, to book guys, to make the top guys to make money. And I think they just have forgotten it. They think they're writing. Unfortunately, now they're writing a television show instead of promoting wrestling.
Do you think that with TNA is on the same channel as UFC? Do you think TNA, like somebody at Spike, should like slap Dixie Carter around or give her the cane like you gave to Francine during the franchise retirement? Maybe just smoke her and say, "Look, bitch,
across the face.
You see this?
Across the face."
Right, this shit's on your fucking channel. Are you not watching this show? I mean, do you not see what's drawing money right now? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I see that. And I'm like, fuck, dude. I mean, it's on that same fucking channel, and you have you have a show that makes early '80s WWF shows look like a serious fucking drama. It looks like Dexter compared to what you're putting on.
I have nothing against TNA, but they're actually Dixie's a decent woman, but they got so many idiots running that show. Vince Russo has no business being in pro wrestling, and Hulk and Bischoff are just killing it, for their own interests. Again, it's like WCW all over. They've bankrupted every company they've ever put their fingers on, and they're doing it again for selfish reasons. And they overestimate the wrestling fan. Not everything. You don't need to expose the business every 5 minutes and say that this is a shoot and this is a work and try to be so behind the scenes. I mean, that was cool 10 years ago. But get over it, move on. Now, fans get it now. They know it's a work. Just go out there and entertain people. And they have some of the best wrestlers in the business. They could certainly do it. They're just the way they go about the way they go about things. There's just no brand, no creativity. ECW, we had a brand. We were, our brand was hardcore entertainment. They don't know what they are. 1 week they're family entertainment. Next week they try to be hardcore. Next week they're porn. Next week they're crash hit television. They have no direction and no brand. So it's just it's a waste. It's a shame because wrestling could really use a legitimate number two. And the reason they did the hardcore reunion at Hardcore Justice was because they needed buy rates. And they certainly aren't getting them, with their regular shows. So they had to bring in a bunch of, ECW guys, a company that went out of business almost a decade ago, try to pop buy rates. That says how terrible shit is in TNA if you think about it. You don't see a WCW reunion. You don't see a WCW reunion show ever.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, it's just, it is what it is,
Just Incredible saying it how it is, brother. Only Just Incredible says it, brother.
Hey, Violence Jack. I know Violence Jack's on the line right now. I know he's got shit. This guy is a student of the game, the professor of our show, even if he is a completely drunk one. Are you blacked out? Are you blacked out?
No, before you ask any questions, brother, I know you're going to ask a stupid question, by the way. This guy here, Just Incredible, is the one who put your boy Raven. Remember when he tied him up and he beat the crap out of him? That was funny, man. Now, that was funny. Now, go ahead, buddy, Jack.
Well, I was just going to say, Just Incredible, you said one of the things I've been saying for years and years, that it's wrestling. It's not rocket science. Same thing with music. When people overthink it, it's rock and roll. It's not rocket science. It comes from your brain and right from your heart and right from your crotch. And everything's so scripted and generic, and it just bums me out to no end because I've said this before. I'm like a man without my country. I have no organization to watch except for AWA on ESPN. I'm left with the thing that I hated most as a kid, and now it's all I have. And I don't actually have a question. I came in late. I was just listening and trying to sober up enough to fucking have something good. But